Welcome back to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht, and today's guest is Dr. Lakila Bowden, author of Sho'nuff, the Sho'nuff Principle. I want to read your subtitle because I love it. So, a
Yeah.
high-achieving woman's guide to self-care, self-promotion, and self-celebration. So,
Yes.
I am so excited about this. The whole subtitle, I was like, yes. So, Lakila, let's start out with tell me about this book, The Sho'nuff Principle, and why you wrote this.
Yes, absolutely. So the Sho'nuff principle means that what you tell yourself about yourself will show enough become a part of your reality.
Oh my goodness, I
And
love this.
exactly. So we have the power to shift and curate the realities that we want to experience. And you mentioned the subtitle. I specifically wanted to point out high achieving women because a lot of times we're deprioritizing ourselves for everyone else and everything else.
Yeah,
And really, we need to flip that formula. When we put ourselves at the top of that kind of that totem pole there, where we are prioritizing our self care, our self celebration, and all of those things, and self promotion, we give ourselves a chance to flourish in a way that benefits everyone else and everything else. I'm a speaker. I have a training and development company, IC Technologies. I work with a lot of women who are very driven, who are very accomplished, but don't feel accomplished. And a lot of that is because they don't recognize themselves in that way. So that's why I wrote the Sho'nuff Principle, to be the battery in the back of some already really dynamic people.
I feel like we were supposed to have this conversation today because I was driving into town today and I recorded a video about the success mindset and
Mm-hmm.
how. So I have not put this video out there yet, but like it was like what was on my mind this morning before I even
Mm-hmm.
looked at my schedule and your title and knowing who I was talking to. But I feel like for me, part of my journey was when I started my business, I had a business coach and I remember him saying to me at one point during the first, 6 months or so that we were working together, he said something about how like I said how like this has to work, and he was like, "It has to work because there is no other option." So I in Lakila, to back up a little bit, I was laid off. I lost my job, decided to start my business. But I think that a big part of my I mean success, right? You just said it. Like it doesn't. You don't always feel that you're successful,
Right.
but a big part of like it has been success, right? Like a big part of that has been that I told myself from day one, this has to work.
Yep.
I not like out of this like desperation or fear, but like this has to work. This is
Mm-hmm.
going to work and I am going to be successful. And again, like I don't always feel like not every day is a just amazing day, right? Some days I'm like, what am I doing? And how did I get here? And what is happening?
That's entrepreneurship. That's real. That's entrepreneurship. And I totally feel you on that. And that's another reason why I wrote the book. I wanted to give women the cheat codes. So in the book I write about 7 cheat codes of how to achieve this reality, how to prioritize yourself, how to self promote, how to celebrate yourself. Because there are going to be days where you don't feel like it, where you
Yeah.
legit are just like, I am straight up failing today, but you're not. Like those are lessons. Whatever you're going through is a lesson to lead to the next thing. But we need that roadmap, right? Like I know how my mind works. Give me a blueprint to follow. Like give me some steps. And that's what I chalk this book full of, is anecdotal examples, neuroscience backed examples, and then also just it's very very simplistic steps that we can take. Not always easy to implement depending on where you are in your mindset and your journey and what your experiences are. But I tell people, start where they are. Just start where you are. Take
Yeah.
one step at a time. But yeah, exactly, because that mindset matters. That's what's going to bring in the people, the resources, and the opportunities that align with the outcome that we really want to experience.
Yeah, yeah, love it. So the last few episodes, I've been asking this question at the end, and I feel like the it's not a end question; it's a beginning question. So I'm going to ask you. So the reason behind the reason for the title of my podcast, Beyond the Bestseller, is that to me, people write books for more than more than the purpose of becoming a bestseller, right? I mean, if we can be a bestseller, that's great. If we win awards, that's great. If we, but but the reason for writing your book is there's something beyond that, right? Beyond becoming
Yeah.
the bestseller. So I want you to tell me a little bit about like what was for you the beyond the bestseller kind of mission.
Absolutely. So that is a great question because I remember when I started out writing the book and talking to my team about it, we were looking at, well, how do we get on this list? How do we get on that list? And I just said, you know what? Those lists would be great if they happen organically, but I don't want to focus. There's energy that goes, as you know, there's energy and time and effort that goes into all the things writing a book and getting a book out. And where I felt like the best place for this energy was impact, was making sure that the content was good, that we're getting it in front of the right people. And the responses that I've gotten back from that have told me we did just that.
Mm.
So I actually opened the book talking about one of the impetus for the story that I share in the book is that in 2021, I found out I was pregnant in February of 2021. And then a month later in March, I found out my mother was going on hospice.
Oh,
So there was this very, it was competing profound joy and profound sorrow all happening at the same time. And I had to double down on the things that I talk about in this book. The rubber really met the road. And what helped me thrive through that period of time was prioritizing my own self-care, where that might seem counterintuitive. You got a new baby on the way. My mother was transitioning, and she passed in July. My son was born in October.
wow.
But they know each other. There's a connection there between them. Their hearts were beating in the same plane at the same time. My mother, just before she passed, she told me, Lakila, I've had a real good time. And I was able to focus in a way through prioritizing myself and self-care on her, on him, and it ended up being a really divine assignment for me. And then as a woman, a business owner, coming out of that, I prioritized rest. And that ultimately allowed my business to flourish. So I talk about those stories. I weave all that in to the opening of the book, just so that people know I'm a real person. This is not everything works out in my life and everything's
Yeah.
always perfect, and that's why I can say these things. No, this is real. Real life was lifing
Yeah.
when the meat of this book came about.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to me about self-care. You know, self-care and rest, those two words just came out of your mouth. Like you
Hmm.
prioritized rest and prioritized self-care. Um, I so as a woman, right? Like it's hard, a woman, a mom, especially like if you
Hmm.
have kids, um it's hard to prioritize rest and
Hmm.
self-care, right? So
Hmm.
how do you do that? Like what are the things that you are doing? Because I think sometimes like I think for a long time in my life, like I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
Like
No,
and now I'm
that's
like, I
real.
feel like I'm pretty good at resting and self-care, but like I'm a bit older, right? Like how do you prioritize that when your kids are young?
That's a great question. And when I've done studies with women, different various groups of women, all from different walks of life, on different career paths, one of the primary reasons that they don't prioritize self care, the number one that came up in every conversation was guilt, feeling guilty.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the first thing we have to do is alleviate the guilt. Is just say, whether you feel the guilt and do it anyway until the guilt starts to dissipate, but we have to let that guilt go so that we can give ourselves that. When we give ourselves permission to prioritize self care, that's our superpower. And it helps us to put the guilt to the side so that we can do what we need to do for ourselves. Now, for me, what that looked like was asking for help, was inviting other people to support me. I think a lot of times with high achievers, one, we know if we do it, it's going to be done right. And we're just
Right.
not, most of us are just not oriented to ask for help and support. So I talk about building your support squad, and that can look like your partner. For me, my husband is phenomenal. He took on just as much of the load, if not more, than I did, where a lot of times all things motherhood fall on the women, on the woman who had the child. So partner, family, friends, being clear about our boundaries in our careers when we need that time for ourselves. And then literal like rest. Like I know a lot of women who really beat themselves up for feeling like they need to take a nap. I love a nap. I mean, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, I'm going to rest. And then that also just looks like things that constitute rest in your own body. That could be daydreaming. That can be literally just sitting still and being quiet. Not, sitting still and then going through the 50,000 things in your mind that you need to do, like really allowing yourself to turn it off. So rest
Mhm.
looks very different. I look at rest as something that's dynamic. It doesn't always mean sleep, but it does include sleep. Our devices have made it so that we're on 24/7. So turn it off, put it away, put another room downstairs in the car if you need to, so that you can tune in and be present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with your husband, did that, or your partner, I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
what you,
Husband. Mm-hmm.
okay. Did that come naturally? Like the split in him helping?
It's the only way I would marry him.
Yeah.
No, straight
Good
up.
for you.
I knew when I met my husband. I actually did not want children when my husband and I met when we were dating. I was like, I'm gonna be rich auntie. I'm traveling. I'm doing my thing. I'm good. I don't want kids. Um, and when I met him, he was the most incredible partner to me as a friend, as just someone, and how he showed up in life. He also prioritizes his self care. He's very good at that. Not in a selfish way. I think it's for women, we don't prioritize our self care, and we're very selfless. Sometimes with men, they're prioritizing, but also being selfish. And I'm not like, I love men. My husband's a man. I'm not like trying to put men down. It's just, it's our society and how things are
Yeah.
geared. But when I met him, all of the reasons that I did not want to have children were predominantly because I saw the women in my family carrying a disproportionate
Yeah.
part of the load. And I
Yeah.
just didn't want that. I hadn't seen balance. And when I met him, it was beyond balanced.
Yeah.
So, I think that's an important thing to do. We have to evaluate what we want our lives to look like in partnership as well.
Yeah.
And make those choices before we are in the situation where we're now having children, because things don't change, they get exacerbated. So he was
Yeah.
a great partner to me when we were just dating, when we got married, when we were married with no children, and when we were married, then we had a child. His level of partnership ramped up. So yeah, that
Yeah.
was a
Right.
premeditated choice.
Yeah, well, that's great. I ask because for me, it was like, and my husband, I mean, we would say the same thing. So, we
Okay.
both, but for many, many years, it was me carrying, most of the load, right? Like 80,
Mm-hmm.
90% of the load with the kids, the house, the whatever, also
Mm-hmm.
working full time, also making more money than him, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so like, which doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, like, it wasn't
It's
like
a
you make all the money and I, make less and I handle the house. It was like there was an unequal distribution of, everything, right?
right.
And now, like, I think it's hilarious. My sons see him, like, something shifted like within the last 5 years, and my sons, like, don't think I do anything. Like, they think dad does everything. I mean, because he does all the laundry. He does, he cooks, whatever. He does a lot around the house. And like it's like they missed the first 15 years of their life.
Isn't that wild? Like, it's so funny because I can see that coming. My son is only 4, so he's all things mommy right now. Like, he will walk right past my husband and come to me, and he wants
Yeah.
me to do it. He wants all things mommy, and I just see in the future he's gonna be like such a daddy's boy and like all
Yeah.
over him, and I'm gonna be like, what about all that I did?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
there in the trenches.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, that does happen. I think that's one of those things that you have to, like, that communication is key on. And just like how we manage our own energy. Like, I am very quick to book a mommy staycay. Like, I
Good for
carve
you.
out the time for myself. And I mean, I'll go check into a hotel for 2 days, and my husband knows, like, this is my time, and he respects that, and I respect when he does the things that he needs to recharge himself.
Yeah.
So that partnership and balance, you're right, it's not always going to look like I do all of these things, you do these things, and that is balance. It's going to be, what does it look like for your family? My husband also, he works in corporate, I'm the entrepreneur, so our time just looks different. He has more of a consistent schedule. My
Yeah.
schedule is, all over the place
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, that has been an interesting like journey in my life. And I envy like younger women now. I just think that expectations are so different. Like they
Yeah.
grew up different, like we both grew up in very traditional homes,
Mm-hmm.
dad went to work, mom was either home or worked part-time, mom did everything at the house, like whatever. And so I think we entered into marriage just like that's just what it is, right? Except
Mm-hmm.
the difference was I was working full time. And and then it took us a long time to figure out like, oh, we have to reset our own expectations of what this looks like.
Yeah.
I'm also not good at like the household chores, like, so he'd get mad and I'm like, I mean,
Not either. My husband told me the other day, he was not the other day, but he told me a little while back, he was like, I do not like the way you wash clothes. I was like, what's he's much better at it than I am.
yeah.
It's not a skill set that I work to hone in on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't need to control that in any way. That's totally fine. If you don't like
You
the way I
got
do
it.
it, you go right ahead.
Then I'm like, let me make sure I don't get better at this so he doesn't expect me to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. All right. Well, so, okay. So that was one part of your subtitle. I want to talk about the self promotion.
Hmm.
So also can be foreign to many of us, right? And
Absolutely.
I now in what I do in my business, I help people with developing their personal brand. So self promotion is
Hmm.
a part of that, and it feels awkward, right? So talk to me about that and how women need to self promote.
Absolutely. We need to toot our own horns. We need to pop our collars. We need to let people know. A lot of times that's where I mentioned earlier, women, high achieving women feel or are accomplished but don't feel accomplished.
Yeah,
And some of that is literally just not acknowledging our accomplishments and honoring that in that way because we've been taught to be so humble. It's give everyone else the credit, and it's fine. Or we go from accomplishment to accomplishment. I did this thing. Well, now what's next? And we never take the time to kind of sit in the appreciation of what it took to do the last thing. So I one of the companies that my company has worked with and support is Disney, and they brought me in or brought my company in so that we could help some of their high achieving women leaders learn to self promote. And we literally, my team walked them through a series of steps of just literally writing down, spend some time observing in the week the things that you've done this week that you're proud of, both professional and personal. And then when they came back for the next session, there were just so many light bulb moments, mostly like I didn't even realize how much I wasn't giving myself credit for,
mm,
from the small wins to the big wins. We just kind of do them because in some cases they come natural for us. And even when they don't, even when it's something you put a lot of effort into and it was exhausting and it was hard and you got it done, it just feels like, well, that's just what I was supposed to do. And I'm not gonna, brag about it. There's a whole chapter in my book called Brag More
yeah,
because, bragging does not make you a bad B word. It
yeah,
doesn't. It's
yeah,
not a bad B word. In the way that I mean, an authentic and a genuine way to you, and that's going to feel different for different people. It helps your accomplishments amplify and increase in frequency,
yeah.
in magnitude.
Yeah. And there's ways to share things that are like, a humble brag, it's
Hmm.
a like not that like we should downplay it, but like it feels more comfortable to me to like share things in a way that's like I'm so honored by this and I'm, like or I was
Absolutely.
shocked by this or like whatever, but like I can share it without being like, look at me, it doesn't have to come off that way.
It doesn't have to come off that way. I think saying honored that's something I say all the time because I genuinely feel that way.
Yeah.
And I want to let people know that this thing happened. I did this
Yeah.
thing. I was a part of it. You can talk about impact. Like because of my efforts in this area, this was the impact, the people that were impacted.
Yeah.
Or if we're talking about something that you've done at work, maybe, the metrics that were impacted or goals that you've reached. But talk about it though. Don't,
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of women do struggle with because just like we feel guilty around self-care, we feel uncomfortable when it comes to self-promotion. But it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more you do it, the more comfortable you become.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So I'm curious about your take on this, because as you're talking about this, I'm remembering. So part of the message that I share when I go out and talk, I also am a speaker, and when I go out and talk, I talk about and what resonates with people a lot is I talk about my past being the person behind the person, right? So a lot of my career, I was supporting a male CEO. I was the person that was the getting all the stuff done behind the scenes. He was the one, the face of the company, whatever. Um, and in my experience, often credit is uh, so when things are going well, people love to take credit. When things
Hmm.
are not going well, people love to say it's your fault, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so I had many, many years of that. It's like when things were going well, he was so great. He was doing such a great job, he whatever. And when things weren't going well, it's like, Kelly, what are you doing over there? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just notice this pattern where you're like, huh, like,
Mm.
so in those moments, and this isn't to bash anyone, just more of like in those moments where like things are going well and the credit is going to the face of the company, right? If you are that person behind the person, how do you, because now I get to be now I am the owner of my company. So I get to brag and I get to say how, like the decisions I'm making, the impact that I'm having, the things that the success that we're having. But when I was the person behind the person, I didn't it was awkward to be like, I get credit for something that, like, how do you claim some of that when you're not the face, when you're not the owner, when you're not the CEO or whatever?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great question. I think it's a common place that people find themselves in, even if they're not like right hand just behind the CEO of the company. In our roles, oftentimes in corporate arenas, whether you're, at a director level or a VP level, whatever, you're still in a position of support a lot of times, or supporting whatever the mission of the organization is. And what I think is important to do is be able to tell your story. Like in a lot of the work that we do is around performance review and perform in communicating performance, um, and what that looks like, and making sure that we're keeping essentially a log, like here are all the things, and tying it to outcomes, like the things that I've done and tying it to outcomes. And I
Mhm.
think you'll find that list is going to be much longer on the like the times we shine than it is when the the other H word is hitting the fan. I mean, SH word is hitting the fan. But it's really being good at telling that, at getting good at telling that story and communicating the
Mhm.
story, and not just leaving it to when it's time to have your one-time performance review, like continually communicating that, continually reminding. And that is where that, the execution of the brag more comes in, is finding those moments, like who needs to know what I'm doing and how, and the impact, and making sure that I'm telling it in the catering the story to the audience, and consistently telling the audience, so that
Mhm.
people are consistently thinking of me this way, not just when it all goes wrong. It's easy to come and be like, oh, now we need to talk to you. But so when they are coming to you, when some stuff goes off the rails, it's like, we know you can manage this. In their mind, they think of the accomplishments that you
Mhm.
consistently had. So that's just being consistent. That is being consistent in telling that, the wins, and in communicating those wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so self-promotion and self-celebration. Talk to me
Hmm.
about the difference between the two. What is the self-celebration versus promoting yourself?
Gotcha. So the celebration, that's the fun part. Like that is the making sure that we're actually rewarding ourselves. And
Mm.
neurologically, our brains respond to reward. It's just like anybody who may be like me and have a minor sugar addiction. You feel your brain is like, ooh, give me more of that. It's the same way when we reward and acknowledge ourselves. And again, I always come back to, in a way that's genuine and authentic to you. Like I'm not a bag and shoe person, so that wouldn't really make me feel like, oh, if I do this thing and I'm gonna buy a bag, that wouldn't do it for me. But things that hold more intrinsic value, that I tell people, plan ahead. I have a process that I walk people through called the 555 reward system. And you're doing this before the accomplishment ever happens. And it could be a small, like the size of the accomplishment doesn't matter. but five, 5. So 5 things that you feel that make you feel rewarded, that you can do in 5 minutes. Things that you can do over the course of 5 hours, and things that might take 5 days. And those are relative. That's just to say, like, something I can do in 5 minutes is go take a break, a breather, and spend time in deep breathing for 5 minutes. That makes my body feel recharged, and I'm rewarding myself in that way. 5 hours might be, I'm going to plan for a trip to the spa. So, I'm going to spend a couple of hours just on me. That's my reward system. And 5 days might be, I'm taking a trip. But we're writing these things down. This comes from a place. There's so many women, when I've asked them, well, how do you reward themselves? They're not able to answer that. And then they're like kind of stuck thinking, what does make me feel celebrated? Like, what do I do that I like? So when you have this list already at the ready, then you have it easily. It's not one more thing you have to do when you're having these accomplishments. You can say, oh, I got 5 minutes. I'm going to do this for myself. Or these are the things that bring me joy and make me feel alive inside that I can do to reward myself. But it's about being intentional about that celebration. And it's literal celebration. Like, it doesn't, I think sometimes we wait for the big moments. I had a baby, I got married, I got a big promotion. And those things are great when they happen, but they're not the kind of things that happen all the time. But you're constantly achieving. You're having these micro achievements in between these kind of macro moments in your life and your career that just don't get any acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love everything you're talking about, and I want to, I feel like I could just talk to you all day about all of these topics. Your book speaks to me for sure, but who's the specific target audience? Who is the person that would because I'm thinking, like, as a business owner, like, this speaks to me, but like wider than that, like, who did you write this for?
That is an excellent question, because like I said, the subtitle says high achieving women. And I don't think that we recognize where that achievement applies. My personal background is I started off in corporate. My over 15 years of my career was spent in corporate. So there are parts of the story that I think women who are in corporate will relate to. The second half of my career has been as an entrepreneur, and I think there are women who that will relate to. I think women who are the side hustlers will relate to. I became a mom at 40. And there are moms. I had a woman who's never had a formal career outside of the home who read my book, who was like, oh my God, I needed this, because I'm always prioritizing everything over myself, including my kids. So high achievement is not relegated to just career or how we make money. It's really just how you show up. So I wrote this for women who fit any of those molds. And I wrote it to be the battery in their back, so that they naturally start to self-promote. They naturally self-celebrate. They naturally prioritize their self-care.
Love it. Well, yeah, like I said, as a business owner, it feels very much like something that I would benefit from reading, but also having come from a corporate background as well. I feel like I needed this back then as well. So yeah, I think the key word there was the high achieving, right? Like those of us who are just like pushing for more in what we do, in our work, in our family, in our life, in our all the things. So
yeah.
Well, Lakila, I will link to the book in the show notes.
Awesome.
How else can listeners or viewers reach out to you, find out more about what you do, or connect with you online?
Absolutely. You can check me out on my website, lakilabowden.com, and on LinkedIn. I'm Lakila Bowden.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for writing this book and for sharing this with us, and for coming on and talking about what was Beyond the Bestseller for you.
Thank you. Awesome. And this has been a great experience. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Looking for a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey? Join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyschuknecht.com